Welcome to Between Over and Next with your hosts, Holli and Robert, a happily married couple who explore the space between what was, what is, and what's to come. From career changes to navigating life's uncertainties, this dynamic duo will empower you to live your happiest life at every age and stage. So, get ready because your journey with Holli and Robert starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Between Over and Next. Hi, Holli.
Hi, Robert. On Between Over and Next, we talk about the pivot, and we would be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the biggest pivots that we've experienced, I'd say probably our whole lifetime, but particularly the past 30 years since we've been together. Because the ultimate pivot between Over and Next is analog, traditional, manual to digital.
I think our generation has experienced the most change in technology, in where it changed our lives. Every generation, I'm sure, feels that what happened during their lifetime is most impactful. But let's get serious. It's really our generation. Now, when you mention digital, and I don't know if people really even think this detailed about what digital means to them. But for me, as a videographer, we went from analog to digital. It affected us most in the actual recording medium, analog tape versus digital tape. Because what happened was analog tape deteriorated over time. The magnetic particles, the way content was recorded, flaked off, which caused what was called dropouts, which meant the image went away permanently. And sometimes it went in or out, like static, right? When you say to someone static, they don't even know what that sounds like.
Right.
But when we tuned between radio stations with an analog dial, before you dialed in the number 92.3,
right,
you dialed in and you had to find the sweet spot. And in between was static. That's an analog sound. Static doesn't exist in the digital world.
You're so smart.
Because you either had digital signal or you didn't. There was no in between. So for me, it was different. But we have experienced as a generation, I believe, from the late 50s, 60s to today, we have seen the most changes in technology.
Preparing for this episode, I've got Google at my fingertips. And that in itself is mind-blowing. I embrace technology more now.
For those of you that are only listening and not
Then
watching, I'm shaking my head no.
Okay, so
she resists technology every day until she gets thoroughly comfortable and used to it.
Okay, so
I have turned her on to so much bleeding edge technology only to be met with, get this away from me, go return it, I'll never use this.
many people resist technology. I don't think I'm the only one, and I think I'm better now than I was.
But you have me.
That
so
is
why
the best
wouldn't
part.
you just trust me?
I do trust you.
I show you something or give you something or get something for the house, why do I have to go through that battle?
Okay, so reasons people resist new technology. You said a key word, comfort. Comfort with the familiar. New technology can feel disruptive. It forces you to switch from your preferred method to something digital. I say this a lot, and this is an important tip. You really do have to get comfortable being uncomfortable to embrace new technology. You do.
When does new technology become old technology?
Well, the between over next moments, that's the learning curve.
When does new technology not become new technology anymore?
Once you've mastered.
It's just technology. Well, who? We were at our condo association meeting a couple of weeks ago where it still came up in conversation. There are some people here that don't do email. Really? Really?
I think they're talking about the 80 and
I don't
90-year-olds.
care. It doesn't matter. Even a 90-year-old was a 60-year-old only 30 years ago.
Right.
Okay. Even a 70-year-old 20 years ago, there was email. You can't resist 40 years of technology.
The other reason we resist technology is we have fear. It can be intimidating. It can be overwhelming.
Yes, but it seems silly. Fear of what?
Okay, well, fear of feeling lost, getting stuck.
Are they afraid they're going to break something? Are they
There's
afraid
fear.
they're going to cause damage to something?
Our kids are fearless. I wonder, I do, if they are ever going to have something that is going to be released, something new, that they're not going to be able to manage and tackle.
Yes, if it involves face-to-face contact, they
Well,
won't be able to tackle it.
And that is all changed now in how we connect with others. So the other reason people resist new technology is the perceived complexity of it. So it often feels complicated, mostly because we're so accustomed to what we were doing.
But I don't think that people resist technology because it's a real fear. I think it's more that it requires some effort to incorporate it, to understand, and it requires learning. So I think there's a whole part of the population
Patience, actually.
that resists learning,
Okay, but
regardless of what it is.
You have to be patient. And you are patient with me to a point, but most often it feels like an obstacle rather than a helpful resource. So I want to talk about some then and now moments because Between Over and Next is about the yesterday, today, and tomorrows of our lives. And when it comes to the shift and the transition from the way it was to the way it is to what's yet to come, which is everything we explore on this podcast, we need to talk about this because this is actually kind of like a time capsule. And also, based on the interviews we've had with our guests, I've already had some blog articles, which you could check out, and I'll put in the show notes of this episode, and some podcast episodes where we've actually talked about the then and now, like with David Noonan and the typewriter, or with Robin Zachary and working for a publication. Let's talk about some of the manual tools and techniques that have led to industry transformation. I want to start off with the biggest evolution of all is in our communication. Let's tell you all the things that Robert and I grew up with. Typewriters, handwritten letters. When we had college applications, we had to fill them out manually, and we waited for that big envelope to come in the mail if you got accepted. And
With a small envelope, if you didn't, I'm thinking of job at Delaware. There was a bar that if you brought your rejection letters in for your, like when you applied for jobs, you would get a free drink with your rejection letter.
that was a feel-good thing.
It was a busy night that night.
And then you also had face-to-face meetings. Everything was in person. Everything. Now we've got
well, phone calls. You would call people. But communication in general was far slower.
No, but the phone was a rotary phone and landline phones with cords out the walls. But now we've got email as a source of communication. We've got Zoom. We've got Google Meet. We've got social media platforms. We have lots of channels of communication versus being in person or being on the phone. That's all we had.
Correct. And mail, which
Immediacy
for
we have
many
now.
years was the primary form of communication. Before mail,
No,
and
you're-
before phone, people lived for thousands of years without formal mail delivery.
So
now
let's-
you get pissed off if it. Listen, I just emailed it to you. I didn't get it yet. What do you mean you didn't get it yet? I emailed it 15 seconds ago. You didn't get it yet? And I didn't get it yet. Try refreshing. I just it's 25 seconds already since you sent it.
So you see
Where is it?
So you see the frustration already?
Yeah, but 25 seconds is taking too long. It could take 25 days or 30 days or 3 months before you'd get a message.
The biggest communication tool is in this phone. I looked up the first handheld cellular phone was the Motorola Dyna TAC 8000X.
Dynatac. It was a flip phone?
It was invented in 1973 by Motorola engineer Martin Cooper.
Right.
There
I
were
remember
pictures
the
of it.
early days of cell phones, okay? And I bought one of the first cell phones that became available. This must have been 1986, 87. I ordered this phone, and it cost about $600 or $700, and it was like a big, giant walkie-talkie. And that wasn't the expensive part, right? You didn't have a whole lot of choices in phone plans back then, since this was like one of the first 5 cell phones that were ever manufactured. But it was $1 a minute, rounded up to the nearest minute.
That is a lot of money.
I remember
Getting that first phone bill.
the first phone bill was almost $1,000.
By the way, those phone bills, boy, oh boy, they were pages long, remember?
Yeah, I racked up probably $2,000 total in phone charges.
What'd you do?
I really don't remember, but what I do remember was that my car got broken into and they stole the phone. I was so happy that the phone got stolen, because then I could stop having to pay for anything related to it. And I eventually paid it off. And I don't know how quickly I got another one. Because back then, they were so big and
Well,
bulky,
first of
like
all,
you didn't want to carry it with you.
I hope you're all enjoying our stories, going down memory lane of what we experienced, because we really think this will.
Make you wish you lived back then.
Apple's first iPhone was announced by Steve Jobs on January 9th, 2007.
We're in our
to
40s.
38 and 7. 45. We were 45 years old. Okay. We were married. We were together with the first
With
iPhone.
children.
Okay. Right. It was released on June 29, 2007. It was priced at $499 for the 4GB model and $599 for the 8GB. Of course, it was a revolutionary device. And
Did we buy the first generation?
I think we did, because I think we went from the iPod to the iPhone. I couldn't continue working on this episode without highlighting the phone, the computer, the internet, and the World Wide Web. I wanted to share some history with you because I thought it's fascinating, and I will include links in the show notes to this because I think it's kind of cool to see the journey we've been on with technology and the digital space. Did you know this, Robert? That the history of computers goes back over 200 years?
I would imagine that they're considering like the abacus.
No.
As a
no. The
computer.
honor of creating the first concept of a computer went to English mathematician Charles Babbage. During the mid-1830s, he devised the concept, an idea for the analytical engine, but he never built it. What was the first home personal computer? And it was called, did you ever hear of this? John Blankenbaker created the Kenback 1. Did you hear of that one?
I probably did.
It was released
but
in
I
71.
forgot.
Still, we were only 9, 10 years old. Okay. And it was widely considered to be the first personal computer and the first home computer.
We had a computer in my high school in the late 70s, and it sat in the office. And it looked more like a giant calculator. There was no screen to it. It printed out on paper tape. Gary Christoffoli and I wrote a program to figure out biorhythms on this computer. And that was in the late 70s.
Tell everyone what a biorhythm is.
Biorhythms have something to do with the date you were born and your energies.
There was a machine that
The
did
machine in the
It was like-
arcade,
yeah.
and you used to put in
I
your
did that.
today's date, and you would put in your
Biorhythm.
birth date, and it would print out a punch card of sorts. I had computers after that, VIC-20, Commodore 64, But when I graduated college, I went to work at a computer store and sold computers in like 1985, 86. And some of the first portable computers, the K-Pro, the Compaq, they looked like portable sewing machines. They were big and heavy, 35, 40 pounds. And those were portable computers. And I would remember that the manager would let us take one home overnight when they'd have a 9-inch amber screen built in and a keyboard folded down. And this was the first portable computer. And it was revolutionary. Before that, I actually had an internship in college in the early 80s with a company in Wilmington, Delaware, teaching them how to use their first computer that they got, because I knew more than them. So I had internships in 2 or 3 different places, and then I had summer jobs at Merrill Lynch, I remember in particular, showing that how to use early versions of what we know as Excel now, spreadsheets. It was Lotus 123, it was called. And all of those things kept me ahead of the pace of everyone else.
And you're still ahead of the pace. I will never forget enrolling our kids in computer tots. And that was when they were little, 5 years old, 6 years old. It's been part of their every day since they were born in 94 and 96, respectively. The Apple Computer Company was founded on April 1st, 1976 by Steve Jobs. Steve Wozniak and Ronald Wayne is a partnership. The company's first product is the Apple I, a computer designed and hand-built entirely by Wozniak. And to finance its creation, Jobs sold his Volkswagen bus and Wozniak sold his HP 65 calculator. Is an HP 65 calculator an expensive calculator?
Well, it was a programmable,
See, you even know what it, you know what it is.
programmable calculator that would do sophisticated mathematical problems.
Then the internet. January 1, 1983. We're 20 years old, Robert.
Do you remember the screech of the modem sound?
No.
You used to dial the number on the phone, take the handset, and stick the handset into this cradle. It was acoustic. You put the mouthpiece in one and the earpiece in the other, and the series of screeching sounds would go on as the two computers would talk to each other through the modem, the internet.
The internet official birthday is January 1, 1983, and before this, the various computer networks didn't have a standard way to communicate with each other. And you probably even know what this means, because again, it's like a foreign language to me. A new communications protocol was established. Transfer Control Protocol.
Yeah, TCP/IP.
TCP/IP. Yeah. You knew that.
Yeah, I did.
You knew that.
Because it was so hard back then to connect.
Wow.
You got error after error after error because you had to make all of these settings and channel numbers and all of these other things. You had to program it all in.
Okay, so
now it's all idiot-proof. We're connected all the time. It used to be if you were using your computer and your modem, that meant no one else in the house could use the phone because you were using the phone line unless you had a second phone line. And then if you had call waiting, you would have to program in to the modem 2 numbers before it dialed the number to deactivate your call waiting, because what would happen was if you were connected with your computer on call waiting and your grandmother would call and it would click the call waiting, it would knock you offline with your computer. If there was a game you wanted to download, it could take like 5 hours to download. So you were tying up your phone line for 5 hours, and then your grandmother would call or your aunt would call in the last half an hour of the download and knock you offline, and you'd have to start all over again.
10 years later, when we were newlyweds, 1993, one decision altered the course of our connected world. 30 years ago. So imagine being able to communicate with millions of people around the world. Imagine having access to catalogs of hundreds of libraries, as well as the most up-to-date news, business, and weather reports. Imagine being able to get medical advice or gardening advice immediately from any number of experts.
Whether it's accurate or not.
The World Wide Web became available to the broader public 30 years ago on April 30th, 1993. 10 years after the internet was born. It was released into the public domain, and it revolutionized the internet and allowed users to create websites filled with graphics, audio, and hyperlinks. This was extraordinary, Robert. When you go from the phone and the computer and the internet and the World Wide Web, we have so many then and now moments. I'm going to show you a little something, because most of you probably have no idea what the heck this is. It's called a Rolodex. It's A to Z. And it was all my cards, personally and professionally.
It's called a Rolodex because that's the name of the company. It also became synonymous in a device to hold business cards.
Correct.
The Rolodex, if I had to guess, was invented before business cards, and it wasn't intended for this. It was designed so that it would click back into the two things that hold it in place. Only later years, when the business card became everywhere, instead of copying all the stuff from on the business card to on here, you stapled it onto the Rolodex card itself.
So look at this.
Like this.
Now I've got a QR code on my phone that goes right to my business card. Talk about the advancement of technology.
What was the last cards we printed?
New Media Connection. The little cards that we have.
Yeah. Just the other day, I shared my QR codes for a number of people. Okay. And most of the people who wanted to share with me, it was their last card. They couldn't share it.
I can't believe I still have this, but I do. And I have another box full of cards, and I have books with sleeves full of business cards. This is dated. This is a dinosaur.
There's only one copy of this Rolodex on the entire planet. This one. That's it.
Yeah, this is it. And
like this collection of cards and information doesn't exist anywhere else on the planet, but right there.
Yeah. We had paper calendars, and we had manual time clocks. Today,
how many jobs did you have where you punched a time clock?
I only remember doing that in the 80s. Balmutella was probably the last place.
Physical card and a punch clock.
Yeah, there was definitely that.
Yeah.
We have cloud storage today with Google Drive and Dropbox. We have CRM software like HubSpot. We've got the digital calendars that are on our phones like Google Calendar.
Remember my first digital book, voice activated
I do.
device?
No.
This was a device that I got from
the
Sharper Image. It was a beautifully designed device and felt good in your hands. It was a controlled voice storage system that was basically an address book, a Rolodex. And it was supposedly voice recognition, and it did not work. And when it got it wrong, in order to teach it, the command you had to give it was no. And Holly would be downstairs. I'd be upstairs in the bedroom. And we didn't own a dog at the time, so she knew I couldn't be yelling at the dog, but I'd be yelling at this device.
It was funny.
No.
It was funny. It brings back such a fun memories. We use Calendly. We use Zoom Scheduler.
I'll tell you that Google now has an integrated time scheduler.
Oh, cool. Okay.
In Google Calendar.
All right, well, we can check that out. And time tracking apps like Hours Tracker and Clockify, they have made workplace tools with efficiency, with ease, with saving time. We had paper checks. I'll never forget my first job putting checks in order. And what do you do with your bank book?
You reconcile.
Reconcile. Thank you. I mean, all manual. I still keep a paper register.
When was the last time you paid by check at a cash register in a retail store? I don't know which supermarket I was in, but there was a sign at the register that as of a certain date, they were no longer taking physical written checks.
I haven't written a check in a store in ages.
10 years?
No, longer than that. We've got e-commerce platforms such as Amazon, which I think I'm on every day. And we have mobile payment apps like PayPal and Venmo and Apple Pay. And we have online banking, which makes life very, very easy. Daily, by the minute, you know what is going on with your money in the bank.
Yes, even though we live in almost, not quite, almost a cashless society.
Well, our bank went cashless, Robert.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, let's talk about the sign of the time.
That's true. I was looking at an upcoming hotel stay that we have. I was looking actually for how much it was for parking. And while I was looking for that, it's $20 a day, by the way, it said specifically that this hotel does not accept cash.
That's more here now than ever before.
And,
that is the world we are living in.
But when I went in this weekend, when I was in the city, and I told you I'd stop to get a croissant, I also got a iced coffee, and totally confused the guy who was taking my order when I went to pay cash because he was having trouble giving me change.
Yeah, math is an important skill, everybody.
And,
but listen,
but I would have to imagine I'm probably one of 3 or 4 patrons the entire day that pay in cash. Everyone else is tapping or card or something.
You just ordered a sandwich from Jersey Mike's. You ordered it online.
Yeah, but it was free. I had my rewards. I used my rewards.
I went and picked it. I go in. There's a bag. It says Robert Allen. I take it.
But
I'm on my way. Talk about saving time.
But talk about technology. During my eating of my Jersey Mike's sub, I couldn't help but think about the Seinfeld episode where Elaine wants her free sub. And she had the punch card where she was getting stamped, and where if she ate 12 subs, her 13th would be free. And that was when she met Denim Vest at the party, and she gave her fake phone number to him on the back of the sub card. That was also the H&H Bagel episode where Kramer comes back from strike. But she was upset because she gave away her stamp card, her rewards card for her sub, because in the analog days, if you didn't keep track of your rewards card,
we had a punch card,
and you lost it,
too bad on you.
Too bad on you.
You said you worked in a video store.
Castle Video.
Okay, we used to go to Blockbuster all the times with the kids. There were VHS tapes. There were DVD tapes. We used to read newspapers. You just asked me the other day, do you want to start getting a newspaper, Holly? I said,
that's what I told those 2 guys last night that we met, that I want to start getting the newspaper.
No, we're not. Physical books. Lots and lots of physical books, and going to the library. I love my Nook. This is my second Nook or my third Nook.
At least your second.
All my books are on my Nook. Or all my books and my notes, because I was the note taker of all note takers my whole life until my husband treats me to this beautiful device. It's called Remarkable. This is the cover. I got our brand color for the cover. Look at all my files. These are all my files, and I even have one that's books. This is a good way of transitioning from the manual and the analog to using a stylus for digital. So if I go to books, I just loaded Kristen Hanna. Look how fabulous this is. On my Remarkable.
Yes, but the whole point
I loaded a book.
But the whole point is
and I'm taking notes.
It's digital paper.
And
so it feels like you're writing on paper when you're writing with that particular style. So she no longer has literally stacks of notebooks. She couldn't go back to find the information in the notebook if she wanted to. Here, it's all there and searchable.
There's ebooks and audiobooks and Kindle and Audible and so many streaming services. Publishing, we talked about this with David Noonan. We talked about it with Robin Zachary, going from manual typesetting and printing presses to digital publishing tools that we use all the time.
It's self-publishing. Publishing your own book. You can start it on Monday, finish it on Friday, and have it in print by Sunday.
And we use Canva and WordPress. And we love them. Those are just 2 of the tools that we use regularly. So in the classroom, we had chalkboards and textbooks. And at home, we would look up things in an encyclopedia, which we talked about with G. Keith, right? With his World Book encyclopedias.
That was the source of information. You'd go to the library and you'd search the microfiche to find newspaper articles.
But now we've got e-learning platforms and digital classrooms and interactive whiteboards. We love Google search. We love our Alexa. We love Siri. We have so many amazing apps that we all use, whether it be through social media, Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and Pinterest. When it comes to productivity, we've got project management apps like Trello and Notion, and helps collaborate with others in teams no matter where you are in the world. I remember when we had our Garmin, we went from paper maps. I used to handwrite directions.
Well,
Here,
you'd
left
go to
here, right
AAA,
here,
you
use
get
landmarks.
the triptych they'd put together for you.
I love that.
And you'd flip the page
But
as you,
again,
as you traveled along.
I would be lost without Google Maps or Waze. I would. There are many, many benefits of operating in a digital world. It's going to continue to enrich our lives personally and professionally. We are going to continue to have accessibility 24/7 with information at our disposal, at our fingertips, like that. We have increased productivity and efficiency. We have enhanced connectivity. We have more work-life balance. We have innovation and creativity. There's adaptability because the digital world enables quicker pivots in response to changing market conditions and consumer demands. We're keeping up with the trends, and this ensures competitiveness and relevance in the marketplace. Robert, talk about artificial intelligence because that is on everybody's lips these days.
It's been around for a very long time. We don't even realize it, but a lot of the voice recognition technology, which is AI, has been around, and it's been utilized in corporate phone systems. A phone system can recognize your yes or your no answer without having to enter in a key. And that's been around for a long time now. But you don't realize it that is artificial intelligence.
Like customer service, like if you have a chatbot, right?
Yeah, all of that is artificial intelligence. Now what people are talking about in terms of artificial intelligence is content creation. The tools that are available to us are remarkable in the sense that it helps people function in life. And as just one example of the thousands more are the ability, and it was demonstrated, ChatGPT 4.0, was the translation technology. So two people that speak completely different languages can now have a phone with ChatGPT 4.0 on it, and you can instruct it to become a translator. So if your friend speaks only Spanish, you tell it to translate everything that is said in English into Spanish and everything that is said in Spanish into English. And what will happen is this will now act as a live translator where you will say what you want in English and suddenly the voice comes on and will say it in Spanish. And then the person in the room says it in Spanish, and then that device translates it to English for the person.
That's phenomenal.
All in real time.
That's so cool.
Something like that. To use ChatGPT to write a love poem or sing a song or something, yeah, all fun and all of that. But think about that power where you land in a foreign country, and now you have the ability to communicate
It's
in
meaningful.
real time. Everybody has heard the term artificial intelligence,
Well,
but nobody really knows
I
what,
think most people
what
think
it
it's
is.
going to minimize the human touch. I
No.
do believe people
It's not,
believe
artificial intelligence is not going to take over the world or not going to take over people's jobs, okay? People will lose jobs not to artificial intelligence. People will lose jobs to people who know how to use artificial intelligence.
That's great. We're going to overcome the learning curve that so many people are having a hard time with. My few tips are to adopt a hybrid approach, to ease into new tech, create a bridge between the familiar and the new, and start to integrate some technology into your existing habits. So you don't have to learn everything at once. Focus on mastering one aspect at a time and break it down if it's too complex. Seek out user-friendly tools that complement your learning style. Definitely leverage your support resources like your friends, your family, mentors, people that are much more tech savvy than yourself to minimize the stressors that often occur during the learning curve of moving into new technology. Set aside the time to explore more, to familiarize yourself at your own pace, and take advantage of tutorials. You tell me that all the time in online communities, and just look up a video for it, and it's pretty much there if you Google it. I'm just grateful, Robert, that you are my tech-savvy partner, because you offer the guidance that I need regularly, and you help answer questions when I get stuck.
You know what we didn't talk about in all of this is what hasn't changed. Is there anything that you can think of that 30 years ago, 35 years ago is exactly the same as it is today? I don't know. Can you think of anything?
Are you going to tell me the Tootsie Pop? That they have not figured out a digital version of the Tootsie?
No, it's the
Pop?
same.
Wow.
It's the same. The only thing that's changed, and I just noticed this, I just proved myself wrong about the Tootsie Pop, and just this second became evident to me. Look at the stick. See the stick? See what it has?
There's a UPC code.
There's a barcode on the stick, which means they
That's
can
quality
now
control.
they can sort and track this lollipop via the stick.
So if you
on
call
here.
customer service today, or you go into a
They're
chat
going to tell
bot,
you, if I didn't like
you
the
go-
flavor, they're going to ask me to read
Cute.
them this number here on the stick. So I just proved myself wrong. So even the Tootsie Pop has changed, but not the Tootsie Pop itself. The stick has changed. Tootsie Pop's the same.
Keep reminding yourself of the advantages that new technology can bring, and focus on the benefits and incorporate them so you can do and be better. That is what's most important. Again, Robert, thank you for being by my side as all these new tools come into existence, and you introduce them to me so I can do and be better.
I'm sure there's going to be some new stuff that I'm going to expose you to.
I can't wait.
Okay.
I'm excited, and I want you to be excited too. So continue learning.
Yes, and share with us some of your favorite technological advancements in your lifetime. We'd love to hear about that.
I'm so grateful for all of the tools that I use in order to produce this podcast, and
To get it out to the world.
yes, we're so grateful you were here today.
Yes, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Between Over and Next. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found it meaningful and insightful.
If you value it to be worthwhile, please share it with your friends and family.
We would really appreciate it if you could take a moment to write a review for us. Your feedback will help us continue to create content that resonates with you.
And don't forget, in the show notes, you can find all the relevant links mentioned in this episode, from accessing free downloads to visiting our website and more.
If you have any questions or comments, we would love to hear from you. Simply send us an email. Our email address is hello@hollyandrobert.com. We're always excited to connect with our listeners.
So until next time, thank you again for joining us on Between Over and Next.
Thank you for listening to Between Over and Next, the podcast that navigates the twists and turns of life with courage, laughter, and a whole lot of inspiration. Tune in every Tuesday to hang out with Holli and Robert on your favorite podcast platform. Visit hollyandrobert.com and follow them on social media to ignite your passion and fuel your dreams.